Welcome back to Storytime with Karen and Kevin. I'm your host, Karen Monroe. Our next story was posted by Spooky Book I Write. The preposterously unlikely plight of Lucious the llama.
Llamas for sale.
Broadcasted the street vendor.
4 in the lot. Buy them all for a discount.
Crowds of uninterested shoppers passed as quickly as possible, doing their best to avoid eye contact with the merchant and hold their nose to avoid the smell of dirty llamas. In a caged trailer behind the loud man, 4 llamas stood conversing about their soon-to-come fate.
"He's never going to sell us, yelling like that,"
said Santiago, a large pearly white llama with a singular black spot that seemed to imitate a saddle laid across his back.
"He's got to have passion. Find someone admiring us and go up to him and engage in a private conversation. Sell him on us. This man is a fool."
"Why are you so eager to be sold, Santiago?"
asked a slightly smaller brown and gray-spotted llama named Diego.
"In a rush to become someone's stew?"
"I am not going to be anyone's stew, you fool. Do you see this coat?"
He turned his long neck and made a nodding motion to his saddle patch.
"I am a showpiece, a staple of a ranch, a fixture to be adored by all. They would not waste such a prize such as me for a simple meal. You, on the other hand, I could see you being served with a side of rice and conchas."
Diego side-eyed Santiago for a few seconds before breaking into a chuckle.
"Whatever you say, showpiece. Make sure you keep that same attitude when we're plated next to each other."
From behind them, a third llama was shaking violently, trying to keep his composure.
Will you two shut up?"
said Sebastian in a rage.
"We have already been dragged off to be sold at the market. Is that not bad enough for you two? Who knows what will happen to us now? You joke about being eaten as if it were not a likely possibility. We've been here all day, and no rancher has shown the slightest interest in any one of us. Soon, the slaughterhouse workers will come and get us for a discount once the markets close. So, can we please spend our final hours not talking about our death?"
Sebastian finished this last sentence out of breath, his brown coat heaving as he struggled to catch his breath. Ting! The 3 llamas turned in unison towards the noise. Ping!
"What are you doing, amigo?"
asked Santiago, watching the 4th llama kick at the cylindrical bars of their cage with his front hoof. Clink!
Nothing,
said Lucious.
"I'm not sharing any of my oats with you, idiot."
Taken aback for a second, Santiago composed himself, rose to his full height, and bellowed at Lucious.
"What did you just say to me?"
"I said I'm not doing anything,"
said Lucious, paying no attention to Santiago's posturing.
"I wish this ugly guy would quit bothering me."
At the second insult, Santiago charged Lucious, but Diego got in his way and began to explain.
"This is Lucious, Santiago. He's a bit different."
Diego leaned in close to the other 2 llamas and whispered,
"He has this condition, reverse broadcasting syndrome. Basically, he states all of his thoughts out loud without realizing it. It got him into lots of trouble back at the ranch."
"I see,"
said Santiago, still a little perplexed. He walked over to Lucious and observed him kicking the cage a few seconds before interrupting.
"So, why are you hitting the cage? You know you can't break through them, right? These are iron bars."
"Oh, I'm not trying to break out."
"Then what are you doing?"
Lucious looked nervously and then answered,
"I'm testing the bars of the cage to make sure they won't break when we get put on a truck."
Smirking, Lucious returned to his task.
"Fool, I'm going to break open these bars and eat all of the oats stored in them. I'll get them all to myself."
Santiago and Sebastian stared in disbelief at the stupidity of this llama. There was no way he could honestly believe the bars of their cage were filled with oats. No one was that foolish, right?
"So, is this also a part of his condition?"
asked Sebastian.
"No,"
answered Diego.
"Sadly, he's just really stupid. Always has been."
"I see."
Lucious kicked at the bars of the cage for the better part of an hour before finally giving up. Outside, a man in a blue uniform walked up to the merchant selling the llamas and engaged in a conversation. The llamas looked on in horror as the merchant smiled and shook hands with the man in the blue uniform. They knew their fates were sealed. Within the next hour, the sun began to set. The llamas were just about to drift off to sleep when a pair of blinding headlights beamed at them. Sebastian began to sob, and the others felt their hearts sink into one of their 3 stomachs. A large flatbed truck pulled up next to the llamas, and a crane lifted their cage onto it. Despite their despair, weariness overtook them, and they cuddled up for the night. The turns and bumps of the road created a lullaby that guided them to rest. With their damning fates before them, they dreamt of freedom, of the cage breaking open and the 4 of them bounding off into the pastures of green, dotted by ponds with enough water to satisfy their daily requirement of 2 to 3 gallons of water. As the sun eclipsed over the horizon and bathed the land beneath in a violet and crimson shower of early morning illumination, Sebastian awoke. His mouth was scratchy and dry. He realized he had been chewing on Lucious's curly beige coat all night long. His coughing and sputtering awoke the rest of the group. They stretched their legs and brushed their fur against the side of the cage. Within minutes, their stomachs informed them that they were quite hungry. Looking around, they saw hay had been pressed against the backside of the cage. Their heads were small enough to fit through and enjoy breakfast. And though this hay wasn't enough to satisfy their daily intake of 2 to 4% of their total body weight, which equates to about 10 to 12 pounds of hay daily, it was a satisfactory breakfast. Santiago rose from his breakfast, and his eyes met the side of lush, enchanted rolling hills that were draped in early morning fog that seemed to lay like cotton atop them. Frosted dew covered every blade of grass and made the dry hay they had enjoyed just moments before seem entirely unappetizing. Beyond the hills were untamed forests of tasty greenery. The thought of leaving all this beauty behind sickened him to the core. In this moment, Santiago knew he wasn't ready to die.
We've got to figure a way out of here,
he said. Without hesitation, Lucious bolted up the back gate and threw his body full into it, without reserve. However, the gate held strong, and Lucious was flung back onto the ground, uttering breathless groans and sputtering in failing attempts to regain his breath. Uttered Lucious.
I can't.
He sucked in a large lungful of air, which were followed by intense wheezing as his damaged llama body attempted to recover from the reckless act.
Why did you do that?
Asked a bewildered Diego.
You said...
Lucious took a few more deep breaths before continuing.
You said you guys wanted to escape, so I tried to break down the gate.
Does this guy know the first thing about escaping? Did you honestly expect to break through the gate?
Asked Diego, shocked at the unyielding stupidity of Lucious.
No. Yes, I just wanted to inspire you 3 and make you see that with enough determination, we can make it out of this. We will not be Stu.
Well, that was almost inspiring,
said Santiago as he reached his long neck around and flipped the latch that kept the gate locked. He pushed the gate open with his front hoof and smirked as the other llamas dismounted the truck. His llama body hit the asphalt of the highway at 83 kilometers an hour, obliterating all 4 of his legs at once and whipping his head to the ground, causing his vertebrae to shatter, killing him instantly. The others looked on in horror and utter disbelief as Santiago's body tumbled and skidded to a stop, leaving a trail of gore and blood-matted fur behind it.
Why didn't he wait till we slowed down, or at least until we were in a curve or something?
Sebastian asked no one in particular, trying to comprehend what he had just witnessed.
That's just how it is on this bitch of an earth,
answered Lucious, looking on as the corpse faded into the distance. Diego couldn't help but agree. Within the next 10 minutes, the truck was forced to slow to let a gaggle of Southeast Asian nuns cross the highway, common occurrence in Ecuador. Making the most of this opportunity, the remaining llamas safely jumped out of the cage and galloped down a sloping hill in order to hide from the mirrors of the truck in case the driver happened to look back. With the sound of hooves filling the air and the wind on their faces, the 3 llamas had never felt so free. They maintained a steady pace of 64.3738 kilometers an hour.
So, what's the plan from here?
Asked Sebastian.
We head for America,
answered Lucious proudly.
Land of the free.
I don't know if those freedoms extend to llamas,
said Sebastian.
Why wouldn't they?
Asked Lucious. Unable to come up with a retort, Sebastian was forced to agree. Over the next 8 years, the group trotted their way up South and Central America. Eventually, they made it all the way to Mexico in one piece, and after a brief 6-month drug-fueled vacation in Puebla, they were finally close to the border. All that stood between them and freedom was an 18-mile stretch of desert along the eastern coast. The three of them stood on a cliff overlooking the final leg of their adventure. They had grown close over these last 8 years and had agreed to finally part ways and start new lives once they made it to America. Sebastian wanted to explore the wild Rockies and traverse the mountains all the way into Canada. Diego had his sights set on finishing medical school and opening up a family dentistry in downtown Minneapolis where he could finally settle down. The other two had asked Lucious what he planned to do many times, but he refused to answer, though he knew the answer clearly. He would think, and then say out loud clearly for everyone to hear without realizing it, that he wanted to become a cashier at the local CVS and get employee discounts on bulk Coca-Cola Zero. Diego and Sebastian, not wanting to insult a disabled llama person, would pretend not to hear Lucious spilling his thoughts aloud.
Well, come on guys, it's time to meet our destiny head on.
Diego took one look back at the long road they had traveled and made his way towards the border. Nerves filled the llamas as they got closer and closer to the border. With every gallop, their anxiety grew. They had come so far and were nearly at the end of their journey. With only 2 miles to go, trouble was spotted. Sebastian heard the roar of an engine coming from behind them. He signaled to the others to look back. Panic struck as they realized it was the same truck that had been bringing them to the slaughter all those years. It was back for vengeance and llama meat.
No,
uttered San Diego with despair in his heart. They had come so far, and he refused to be captured so close to the end.
Look, up ahead,
yelled Sebastian. Coming at them from the border was the U.S. Animal Rescue Corporation. Maybe they really would make it out of this. With the Ecuadorian truck hot on their collective llama tails, they ran towards the rescue vehicle. It pulled up in front of them and lowered the back gate. Diego ran up first and then signaled Lucious to go up next. There were 2 dark-skinned humans on the back, trying to call Lucious into the truck.
Come on, Lucious,
yelled Sebastian.
Get up here.
I'm not sure about this, guys. I think I'll just get on the other truck,
said Lucious, hesitating. Dumbfounded, Diego called out to his friend.
Get on the truck, Lucious. Don't you recognize the other one? That's the slaughterhouse truck from Ecuador. If you go with them, you'll likely be killed and eaten.
I don't know. I usually trust these type of guys,
said Lucious, shifting his eyes between the 2 humans.
Lucious, what the F are you talking about?
Before Sebastian could finish his sentence, he was gunned down by a Chilean sniper 1,300 kilometers away, for reasons unrelated to the story at hand. Skull fragments and brain matter shocked Lucious into jumping aboard the Rescue Corp truck. Seeing this, the driver of the Ecuadorian truck was enraged. If he couldn't have the llamas, no one could. He jammed the gas pedal and inched closer to the truck containing the last 2 llama boys.
He's going to run us off the road,
called Diego.
I see that now. Good call, Diego. That was extremely obvious. I can't believe it took this idiot so long to realize that's what he was going to do.
Containing his rage, Diego responded,
We have to do something. We can't let him catch us.
The truck slowly pulled up along their right side. He was planning to hit their back tire and launch them off the road and down the sheer rock face to the treacherous waters below. Seeing this as the most likely possibility, Lucious sprung into action. He bounded up the front of the Rescue Corp truck and kicked the front windshield. He then incapacitated the driver with a swift hoof to the back of the neck. Taking the driver's position seat, he lurched the steering wheel to the right, causing the Peruvian truck to hit their back tire and launch them off the road and down the sheer rock face to the treacherous waters below. The 2 trucks intertwined, and neither could do anything as they fell towards the sea. The Peruvian truck landed first. Unluckily, it hit a large boulder just below the surface and was instantly pulverized before exploding into a ball of steam and flame. The shrapnel from the exploding vehicle eviscerated everyone in the back of the Rescue Corp truck. Both vehicles slowly sank, never to be recovered. Fortunately for Lucious, the cabin protected him from the shrapnel, and the airbag deployed just as designed. He was able to exit through the open windshield and floated safely to the surface. Llamas are extremely buoyant. Upon surfacing, he looked around to see that no one but him had survived the crash. Saddened, but knowing he did everything he could to ensure everyone's safety, he resolved to let the currents of the mighty Gulf take him wherever it so chose. He was finally a free llama. I never thought I would feel so many emotions for llamas. But of course, Lucious makes it out alive. Of course he does. That's all for today. Thank you so much for listening. If you like what we do, please give us a thumbs up and subscribe. And if you're on YouTube, turn on that notification bell so you never miss an episode.